How's it going, everybody? This is one of my favorite episodes of the season so far. Season 2, Episode 9. A lot of things happened. Many characters were affected. We got a continuation of the last episode between Miss Colbell and Mark S. Dylan had a heartbreaking moment. Mr. Milchick finally stood up to Mr. Drummond. That scene was fantastic. And so much more. But let's start from the beginning. The episode starts off with Helena eating an egg, and the way the scene plays out is just so odd. I don't know, this might be just the Eagans flexing their pocketbook on us because they're the only ones that can afford eggs right now, right? So they're like Helena is, she has this contraption and cuts the egg into slices and lays it on the table all perfectly, takes out her like ornate fork and knife and starts slicing up the egg, savoring every single little tiny bite. And it's just, and her dad, Jame Eagan, is there watching this whole thing. And she asks him, hey, you want to join me in, I don't know what this was, lunch, snack, some odd egg dietary supplement going on? I don't know. And he's like, no, I'll just watch. And to make it weirder, he's just like, I wish you'd have them raw. Like, why? Why do you want to watch your daughter eat a raw egg? Like, what is the... I don't know what this scene means, but it just adds to the weirdness, the strangeness of the Eagans and of Lumon in general. Whatever that was, it was weird, but I liked it. So then after that, you have a shot of them zooming out of Lumon, and you see the water tower with that Lumon logo, the water droplet. But they've been focusing on that water droplet a lot. We saw that with Gemma. The food that she's eating is in the shape of the water droplet. And I don't know, is it a water droplet or is it blood? You know, because we saw when Gemma and Mark S were meeting, they were drawing blood. It's like, that logo is significant, right? It has to be. It's a droplet in the Lumon, like the character letters, with a world logo around it, right? So I'm thinking, is that the world's water or is it the blood of all of humanity? Like, I have no clue what it is, but it could be a clue to what Lumon is doing. Let's put that for a side right now. Let's talk about Miss Huang and Milchick. So Miss Huang is coming to the end of her Wintertide Fellowship. I don't know if this is a premature end or not, but you've never seen Miss Huang, this little girl, I'm calling her Miss Huang. You never seen her this like vulnerable. She's like nervous, you know? It's like she doesn't want to finish the fellowship. It's like maybe she knows it was terminated early. Like she was rubbing Milchick the wrong way and he's getting rid of her. I don't know. Either that or maybe she's afraid of the next step of where she's going. Maybe she's going back to where she was before and she doesn't want to go back. But there's like some fear in her. There's some regret in her from the way she's been acting. And so she gets a word of that Jame Eagan had, just like Colbell did. And Milchick asks for a physical sacrifice, and they sacrifice her little game, you know, and she smashes it. And then leaves Lumon on their little school bus. Now, Milchick is starting to stand up for himself. He got rid of the little girl that's been annoying him. But more importantly, the scene with him and Mr. Drummond was so good. Mr. Drummond was trying to intimidate him, trying to put the blame on him, put pressure on him. Right, this is your fault. You promised me that Cold Harbor is going to be finished today. What's going on? All of these past mistakes, they're all your fault. Then starts picking on him for his use of the English language, saying, you know, you speak simpler. There's the unnecessary words you're using. Like, are you trying to make me feel bad for you being dumb? And so Mr. Milchick puts him in his place. He speaks the way he wants to speak and then explains it to Mr. Drummond like he's an illiterate baby, and pretty much says, what's going on right now is not my fault. I am the manager of the severed floor. I run every little single thing that's going on down there. I'm in charge. You got to talk to me with respect. Now, what happens with Mark on the outside? That's not my responsibility. That's yours. So he pretty much is like, yeah, frick you. I'm going to talk the way I want to talk. If you're too dumb to understand, forget you. This is your fault. I'm out of here. I'm going back to do my job. You do yours. And that was so good. That right there is the heart of this show. This show, starting from season 1, was all about rebellion, right? Sticking it to the man, fighting the system. That's what the innies did. That's what Mr. Milchick did in this scene, and it was fantastic. Now, while all this is going on, Dylan meets his wife, and his Audi's wife. And unfortunately, this looks like it's the last time. His wife told Audi Dylan what happened, that they kissed, right? And obviously, he's going to be upset because you're technically cheating on him with himself because he doesn't know. Like, is Audi Dylan, Innie Dylan, they're two separate people pretty much, right? And so she's literally cheating on him with himself because Innie Dylan reminds her of how he used to be, because Innie Dylan has something to live for, so she thinks, okay? He's full of life, he's funny, he's sweet and all that stuff. Whereas Audi Dylan has been adrift. He's lost. He doesn't have a purpose. He doesn't know what to do with his life. And so he's not the same. He's not the same person that she fell in love with. So when she meets Innie Dylan at work that day, she breaks it off. She says, "We can't do this. I can't meet you anymore. I told my husband this is done." And Innie Dylan obviously is heartbroken because he's been a good boy at work. Because he wants to meet her. That's the only thing he's looking forward to, right? And he literally made a paper ring for her. He got down on his knees and proposed, and she was crying, and it was an emotional scene. She got up and left. And all of this was clearly done as a distraction, right? The reason why they let Dylan meet his wife is to distract him, right? To keep him focused on work, give him an incentive, but also keep him distracted from what is real, at least what is real to him, because the outside world might as well be a dream, okay? It might as well be a dream, a fantasy land to him, okay? His reality is the severed floor. If he escapes the severed floor, I mean, that's still not his life. That's Audi Dylan's life, unless he goes through the reintegration process and all that stuff. The issue is Dylan's mindset now is not the same as Dylan's mindset in season 1. And so now him and Helly are butting heads because now they're thinking completely differently. Dylan's head is in the clouds of the Audi land. Helly is still down in reality. Like, this is where you live. These are the people you care about. You, Dylan, have been distracted by what was never yours. You don't have to live that life. That is not your life. You've only known that lady for like a couple weeks at most. You knew Irving. Irving left you something. That's what you should be focusing on. This is what you should be focusing on. Unfortunately, it looks like Dylan took the blue pill and decides to go back to sleep. A permanent sleep, He decides to resign. And we'll see how this plays out. Audi Dylan threatened to leave Lumon because he didn't want his wife to go and talk to Innie Dylan anymore. But he can't get a job on the outside, That's why he decided to do severed work. So even though Innie Dylan put in the request for resignation, it doesn't mean he's actually going to resign. With that said, I hope Innie Dylan doesn't go out like this. I hope, Audi Dylan doesn't agree to the resignation. Innie Dylan comes back and actually takes time to process this information. I mean, for an Innie, heartbreak and all of that stuff, these intense emotions, it must be a lot because their minds are very extremely controlled and therefore fragile. They haven't experienced the vast diversity of sensations and emotions people do on the outside. And so this is hitting him incredibly hard. And he just needs time to process these feelings, come to terms with who he is, where he is, that people actually do care about me, and I can do something about this. Since we mentioned Helly, let's finish up with her, and then we'll head over to Irving and Bert. So Helly was like, all right, nobody's wanting to help me. Mark's not coming into work. I don't know what's going on with him. I'm worried about him. Dylan is like, yeah, forget you guys. I'm leaving. Helly decides to take things into her own hands, goes to the hang in there poster in the break room, gets Irving's note, and is trying to memorize it. She's sitting there at her desk just memorizing, reading it over and over and over, trying to memorize it. And her dad comes into work. Jame Eagan comes down into the severed floor and says, "You tricked me." And she's just like, what the frick? And that scene just ends right there. So I'm extremely curious to know what's going to happen right there. Because, I mean, she knows of Jame Eagan, but she obviously doesn't know her as a father. And I want to know what Jame Eagan has to say. You tricked me, obviously. Innie Helly tricked him. But it's just odd. Why would Jame Eagan come down to the severed floor to talk to any Helly? Like, any Helly has no significance to her. He knows that. It's not his daughter. So why come and talk to her? Why do you want to understand why she tricked him? I mean, it's obvious. Maybe he's aloof to how the innies are being treated down in the severed floor. I doubt that. Maybe it's just, you are the figure of my daughter and you tricked me, and I feel bad about that. Maybe they tested on Helly early in her life and fragmented her mind, and like the personality of any Helly is actually reminds Jame Eagan more of his daughter than Audi Helly, and so therefore he wanted to come down and have a talk with her. I have no clue. But hopefully we'll get to see the continuation of that conversation in the next episode. Now, Bert and Irving. I'm actually happy the way this turned out. So Bert is in Irving's house, to Irving's surprise, and is looking at the notes that Irving was writing, and he was suspecting Bert might be a Lumon goon. And Bert was like, we don't use that language at Lumon. Lumon, we're very specific with our language. Now, how would Bert know that? I've seen theories where people are saying Bert might never have been severed, but it could also be he's worked for Lumon for years, long before he ever entered the severed floor. And in this episode, we find out that he was a driver. He used to drive for Lumon, drive them to places, but he never did anything bad. He just took them to places, and whatever happened, happened. And so this could be where that guilt is coming from. Remember, he thinks that he's a bad person, that he's not innocent, that he's not going to heaven, which is why he went through the severed procedure, right? So at least a part of him, he liked to think that a part of him had that innocence that he used to have, that now he has lost for whatever he has done, for whatever he has witnessed. And so he's not a bad guy. He doesn't have dark intentions. At least that's what it seems right now. Because before, it kind of seemed like they were foreshadowing or alluding to a dark past, and he has these dark intentions with all the shadows, and that dinner scene made him look sinister the way he was speaking, like he had a dark secret. But in this episode, it seemed like he genuinely cared for Irving. He had compassion for him, he had love for him, he cared about him, and he didn't want to see him get hurt because he knew Irving was digging into Lumon, and he wanted to keep him safe. Irving, on the other hand, wanted to stay. He wanted to stay with Bert. He was never loved by someone, and he wanted that relationship. He wanted that. He wanted to live a life with Bert, and he wanted to stay. But Bert was like, no, we can't do this. No, this can't be done. Get on that train. Go as far away from here as possible. You'll be safe. And so Irving leaves. Gets on the train with his dog. I like to think that they focused on the dog because he has been loved before. He has been loved unconditionally before by his dog, So he's not alone. He has someone there with him. He has a friend. He has a best friend there with him. So you had a lot of people leaving in this episode. Irving left. Miss Huang left. Dylan left. Hopefully at least Dylan and Irving come back because, those two characters are fantastic. But now, let's jump to the main event of this episode. Mark S. We know Mark S. has been reintegrating. He hasn't been coming into work because he's been out of it, right? He's been on the couch. And then now he's in the car driving to meet Miss Cobell. Because Devon, remember in the last episode, called up Cobell. Cobell said, tell me everything. Mark S. is not happy with this arrangement. Devon feels like this is the only option. This is the only thing that we can do. And, it's an extremely risky move. Luckily, we know from the last episode that Miss Cobell's goal aligns with what Mark's goal is right now. So hopefully this plays out well. So they meet up with Miss Cobell and they're talking about what needs to be done, what we have to do. They're discussing Cold Harbor. And Cobell says, if you finished Cold Harbor, that means Gemma died. So hopefully you didn't finish it. And he's at like 96%. He was supposed to finish it today. If he went into work today, according to Miss Cobell, Gemma would have died. Now, what does that mean? In the Gemma-focused episode, we saw that they're going to release her after she's been to all of the rooms, right? One of you made a comment saying maybe Gemma is in any version of herself as well. And I feel like that is incredibly smart. What if, you remember when Helena had the slip up and called Gemma Hannah? What if Hannah is actually Gemma's real identity? I gotta give a shout out to the person who commented that. I'll put it up here. So what if Hannah is Gemma's actual identity, right? And that's why once Cold Harbor finishes, Gemma's going to die. Because it's an innie. Because as of right now, Miss Casey is dead, right? Because if Gemma never goes back to the severed floor, Miss Casey is dead. So if Gemma severs and leaves and goes back to Hannah, that identity, Gemma's dead. So what if that's what it is? What if Gemma's not actually going to physically die? She's just going to sever from the identity of Gemma and go back to being Hannah. That would be insane. And if that is true, then the meeting of Mark S. and Gemma was all planned by Lumon. Everything has been orchestrated by Lumon. That's just crazy. I personally think that's a really cool theory. But anyways, Mark S. is on the phone with Mr. Milchick, pretty much saying, hey, I'm calling out sick. That didn't really work out because Milchick was like, you're an important employee. You shouldn't be going to some random clinic. You come here and we'll take care of you. Because of all that pressure that Drummond put, that all of the people on the board are putting on to Milchick, he's feeling that pressure. Today was supposed to be the day that history was made, that Cold Harbor was completed. You promised this. And so he wants Mark S. to come back into work and finish up Cold Harbor. He's literally on his desk tearing up. Like, you promise you'll be in work tomorrow, please. I feel for Milchick. He's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He's being bullied by that Drummond. Now, Cobell has a plan. I don't understand what the plan is yet, but they waited till evening to smuggle him into... I wrote it down. They're smuggling him into Cottage 5. What is Cottage 5? I don't know. They drive into the place, right? And they get to security, and Cobell is like, we need to meet Miss Marcia White on the 9th floor, which is the specialties department. And the excuse was that Devon is one of Jame Eagan's girls. What? On top of that, she gave a password and said, I'm looking for a gold thimble. Now, while we don't have many clues to decipher what that means, we did get a reference to the 9 before. What is the 9? Is the 9 correlated to the different floors of whatever we're going to, of Cottage 5, the 9th floor, the specialties department, all these different departments? Is something related to these? I have no freaking clue. But they get in, and as soon as they enter into the cottage, Mark severs. Now, my first question is, why are you putting this sever technology into these cottages? Why do you want to be severed when you enter in the cottage? Well, if the excuse was that Devon was one of Jame Eagan's girls, maybe you bring a girl in, they get severed, you do your business, they leave, they don't remember anything, and it's just, I don't know, dude, that's kind of crazy. But anyways, as soon as Mark enters, he severs back into any Mark, and he's kind of freaking out what's going on. I don't understand what's happening. Devon takes him upstairs, and it's literally straight out of the Matrix. This literally reminded me of Trinity bringing Neo to meet Morpheus. They walk up the stairs, open the door. Devon and Mark S. enter the room, and Morpheus is standing right there. Literally, you have the old room with the 2 chairs and everything. Cobell is just standing there just like Morpheus. I don't know. I thought that was cool. So this is a moment where any Mark is waking up. You have Neo in the Matrix waking up. Any Mark is still in the Matrix in that room, but he's going to be woken up to reality. Cobell is just like Morpheus in the next episode, I'm pretty darn sure, is going to explain to him everything that's been going on. He's going to absorb whatever information that Cobell gives him a whole lot better than Neo did, though, because he has seen so much of what Lumon has already done. And I'm very much looking forward to how this plays out. The dynamic between Cobell and Any Mark I find much more interesting than the dynamic between Cobell and Audi Mark. And I'm more interested in Any Mark finding out about things than Audi Mark, because Any Mark is the one with the tunnel vision. He's the one that was on the severed floor, didn't have any exposure to what's going on the outside. He doesn't know anything. All he knew was a severed floor. So now from him, to go from that perspective to understanding the big picture, to unraveling all of these mysteries, that is why I watched this show. That's what I like. And that's exactly what they're giving us. So yeah, I thought this episode was one of the best ones in season 2. But let me know your thoughts. Where do you see things going in the future? Do you think Dylan is going to come back? Irving is going to come back in some way? What's Cobell planning? And how long do you think it'll be till Milchick finally snaps? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.